And welcome back to another crew review episode. Beth, Kinley, John, and now Ashley. It's her debut. Yay.
Wow, that was amazing.
I was hoping somebody else would jump in.
I was like, he's looking how far are we going with this?
I was like, I was gonna jump in. I was like, no, he's wrapping up, and then he kept going. I was like,
I didn't even know I was going to do that.
that was beautiful.
That was amazing.
How long did you work on that?
Just now.
Oh,
I'm so
Could've
impressed
fooled
with
me.
that.
I wrote it as I did it. There you go.
Well done, sir. Well done.
welcome back, folks.
Yes.
Glad to have ya.
Yes. So we have Ashley here for the first time in front of camera. She's here every time, just so y'all know. But she runs the cameras. But now she's here. in the
Out of
front
hiding.
Because we're doing her favorite movie, Sabrina, the 1995 edition. So,
Best movie of all time, in my opinion.
in her opinion.
Has nothing to do with the witch.
Yes,
teenage
I told
Often
them right
misconcepted.
before this started that Jennifer and I sat down to watch it. I had never seen it before. Literally read the description right before we watched it, and I was like, "Oh, this has nothing to do with the witch." I was misled. So
That must have been very confusing for you.
it was. Never saw a trailer. Had no idea what I was getting into. Oh, and the description
Wow.
also had like a dot, and then you had to like find what button on the remote to give you the rest of it. So I really only read the first half. I don't know.
Going in blind.
Yeah.
For this movie, it's not bad to go in blind, though, just because, I
It
mean,
wasn't
you
bad.
kind of have an idea of what's going to happen, but
I had no idea. I got to the part of where it said Harrison Ford and then something about his brother and then chauffeur's daughter, and then that's all I got. I didn't even know there was romance, and I was like, oh, this is like,
I think
pretty
it's
soon
Wow.
I picked up that it was a chick flick, but
Totally,
totally
blind.
blind.
I
I like
love
it.
this.
Ashley doesn't like to read descriptions of movies or
I like going in blind for everything.
like on Netflix.
No
and
trailers
watching a
So
either?
TV
stressful.
show. She doesn't want that little thumbnail of what's going to happen at a TV show when you're binging on Netflix.
I love
So-
trailers in the movies or way in advance of when I'm going to see it, but if I'm about to see it in like the next 24 hours or something, I don't like anything.
You like to forget some.
I like to feel everything raw,
Yeah,
like for the
I get
storyline
that.
of how
I
it was
get that.
written.
Makes sense.
I mean, that's impressive. I can't do that. I need all the
Gotta have my little
all the prep
tidbits.
work.
I also can't read the last page of a book. I think that's absolutely
Oh, that's
terrible.
wrong.
What? How are we friends? This is
Wait,
very shattering.
You mean at all? Like you never finish a book?
Yeah, when I get to the last page, but not like I don't
not
want to
ahead
like.
of time.
I don't-
Okay, that's why I was
Oh.
confused.
Oh,
Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry, I said that wrong. I
was like,
don't
how-
like
She
peeking.
will read 500 pages, but on 501, if it's the last
I like
page,
making
she's
my own
done.
ending.
I don't want it to end.
I was getting like really concerned about
Okay, no,
you.
I respect that. That's worth questioning.
Okay.
No, yeah, I get that. I
She doesn't
hate
like
it when
reading
people.
ahead.
I hate it when
I
people
don't like
do that.
spoilers.
No.
I hate spoilers that much.
I
Our
do
mother
too.
always reads the last page, and I can't do it.
I'm no longer friends with several people in my life because they spoiled things for me.
That's
And
true. You
I've
cut
never
them off.
finished the series Lost for that reason because it was ruined. So there you go.
Which is a real tragedy.
I know. I loved it. It was so
One of the
good.
greatest TV shows of all time.
It's halfway through season 1, and I was loving
You
every
just
minute
need
of
to
it.
get over your
never
hatred
seen
of
it.
spoilers for this one instance.
I think it's on principle now that I don't. So
He has to say something, like when you're in these conversations, he has to have something to say. I haven't finished it because it got spoiled.
Yeah.
If he went and watched Lost and he finished it, he couldn't say that when we bring up
exactly. So
right?
So he's gonna watch all seasons and skip the finale.
That's it.
I've never finished Lost.
That's it. That's it.
So I tried to be very methodical acting because from this movie, and so much so I went and got my own makeover before the show.
Really?
You
to,
really
like,
did have a
really,
Sabrina
like,
transformation.
I did, yeah. I wanted to be just
Because
like
of
her.
the movie.
Yes. So I went
Wow.
to I went to France,
Okay.
came back a new man within a few days. So
Wow.
Wow.
It changes everyone.
Wow.
yeah, I don't like France.
Nor do I.
Wow.
Beth,
food's weird.
what life transformation did you have from after watching this movie?
Well,
None?
I mean, not really.
Well, there you
What
go.
about you? Did you get married?
But the first time I watched this movie, I was very skinny, and then I watched it and had to have a life transformation. So here I sit.
Ashley,
do
what
something.
did you go through?
She got married.
Not the first time I watched it. I was a child.
Well,
when I
eventually
watched
it
it.
happened.
First- okay. Yes, the eventual long progression. I got married.
Oh, man.
No, I became a larger a Harrison Ford fan. I've always enjoyed it, but this sealed the deal for me. I love Harrison
Right
Ford.
on. I have come to the conclusion that there is no movie that he does not have major sass in, ever. I was like, oh my gosh.
It's just a part of
He doesn't
him.
know how, yeah, it is a
He
part
always
of
carries
him.
a little bit of himself into each character.
He does.
But so
I love it.
a lot of different characters. Like, I mean, he in this movie is different from, you know, like when we talked about Call of the Wild. You know, that was a very different role from this role. Very different. Very well done in both of them, in my opinion. So there you go.
There you go.
Solid, sassy actor.
Yeah.
Solid sass. There you go.
Level 10 sass.
Level 10.
Oh.
All
Right
right.
there.
Shall we enter the spoiler zone?
Spoilers. Here we go. We're ready.
Hit it, Beth. Do you need to see this?
I do not. So
She never does.
So the story of Sabrina Fairchild is the daughter of a chauffeur, and her dad works for this really wealthy family called the Larrabees.
Larrabee.
Thank you. I totally switched those letters in my head. Larrabees. It wasn't right as soon as I said it. The Larrabee family, and they have two sons. Linus is the oldest, played by Harrison Ford. David is the younger. And Sabrina has been madly in love with David her whole life and has watched him from afar, but he's never noticed her, which is so sad. So she goes off to Paris, kind of finds herself in Paris, gets to study under fashion and photography, and comes back with a new haircut. And suddenly David notices Sabrina, which is a shocking moment for us all. And in the midst of him being impressed by her, the funny thing is she knows all of his moves because he does the same thing with every girl, but she's excited that she finally gets to go to one of their parties, and David is giving her some attention. Unfortunately, David sits on a champagne flute and is out of commission for most of the movie. So the older brother Linus steps in. And he is trying to basically keep Sabrina away from David because David is engaged to a lady named Rachel. And Rachel's father is merging businesses with the Larrabees. It's $1 billion deal, and they don't want to lose that deal. So in the midst of trying to keep Sabrina away from David and kind of getting, keeping them separated, he dances with her. They fly on the jet to Martha's Vineyard. They share a Moroccan dinner. And through all of this, Sabrina is asking him some pretty direct questions and is being pretty honest. And basically Linus realizes that all he does is work. And so he doesn't really get to live. And so he decides in order to seal the deal, he's going to take her to Paris to make sure that David actually marries Rachel. But he can't actually go through with it because it seems too cold-hearted and mean. Tell Sabrina it's all been a lie. I have basically just been trying to keep you away from David. Go to Paris. She goes, she's so sad. He tells David to go after her, trying to make things right. And David realizes that Linus is actually in love with Sabrina. And so he steps up to the plate, makes the business deal, decides to marry Rachel, and he sends Linus after Sabrina. And we have her happily ever after in Paris.
Aww.
So great.
Sweet.
It's a classic romance story. We love it.
So good.
So tell us about the first time you watched this movie.
So confession, I don't remember a lot about the first time I watched it. I think it must have been at the beach. My Aunt Bonnie is the one that introduced me to it, and she just always comes to the beach with a stack of some of the best movies ever. And
Solid
just
choice.
one of the video casings has like this hat and no face, so you don't really see the character of Sabrina, which is interesting because she's in a hat that one time, but it doesn't really speak to the movie, I don't think, but I thought it was interesting. So I watched it and I loved it.
How old were you?
Don't know that either. Probably middle school.
So you've been watching this movie for a long time.
Yes. Well, also, when I watched it the first time, I didn't own it. So I went a long time before I watched it again. And then once I owned, it was streamable. And then once it was streamable, I watched it all the time, and they took it off everything.
Ugh.
So I now
The real
have 2
tragedy.
digital copies and 2 DVD copies.
This was
She will
on-
never go without it again.
She won't. This was on Netflix for a while, wasn't it?
I think it was on
vaguely
Netflix.
remember the hat, like the picture of her, like and said Sabrina, because
Yeah.
at that time I assumed it was about a witch as well.
Yeah.
Well, the cover makes it look more sensual than it is, too. It's just got a very risque look to it.
So how many times would you guess that you've watched this movie?
At least 100.
At least 100 times.
I can quote the entire thing.
Wow.
And
She
probably
can.
did last night.
That happened.
Was it your first time watching it?
So we had started watching it a few months ago, and we couldn't finish it. We got caught up in something, and so I only got like halfway through and hadn't had a chance to finish. So
You went months without finishing this movie?
listen, I was the one that kept saying, I need to finish this movie. I was really interested after the first half, so it wasn't that I didn't want to. We just weren't able to. So I reviewed the first half and then
Watched the second.
Watched the second. So there you go.
So Ashley, what do you love about this movie?
I love everything about the movie. It's just even like the cheesiness of it, which I normally don't care for cheesiness. I love Paris. This movie made me, I was upset. My room was, the core for a long time when I was younger was Paris, just because 90s Paris is where I wanted to be. I still long for 90s Paris because it doesn't exist anymore,
Yes.
but whatever. I don't know, I just love all of it. The romantic aspect of it. I love the character of Linus so much. I mean, he reminds me of my husband, like just that type of characters I'm very attracted to. So,
Sass and all.
yes. the
There you
sass,
go.
the
Dapper
I
sass.
don't need love in my life. I
Dapper
got it all
sass.
together.
That
and
just
then
sums up
sneaking
Kinley's
in.
life. Dapper sass.
Dapper Sass. There
love
you
it.
go. There you go. You know, he was one of my favorite characters, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Relatable.
Who was my favorite character, Beth?
In this movie?
Guess.
I was going to say the mother.
You're right.
Maud.
Maud was
You're
my
right.
favorite.
Maud. I mean,
Maud.
even with a name like Maud, how can you not love her?
I loved her.
Oh,
I
Maud.
loved her.
Queen of sass.
Yeah. She taught him everything she knew.
That's
No.
right.
So, favorite scene?
Oh, probably the moment where they first like give into their attraction to each other, and they just are like slowly coming to each other, and they kiss, and then it all unravels because he feels guilty. There's just so much emotion in that scene. Also, his office is awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Like those bubbles coming up in the back where he
So
can like go
cool.
shave in
Yeah.
his bathroom on the corner.
I was a fan.
That was awesome.
Ready to redo your office?
Yeah. feel it. I'm gonna have to kick out everybody else on that floor.
For the budget.
What's y'all's favorite scenes?
One of my favorite scenes was when David sat on the champagne float.
Let me
was
just
really
talk
funny.
about that. That is the lamest, stupidest injury to be in a hospital for.
I know.
Like,
Also speaks a lot of his character that he didn't realize those were in his pockets for him to sit down on, and his brother being
Yeah.
smart enough to be like, "I'll just get him to sit down." And
he has dress pants on, puts 2 champagne flutes in his back pockets,
Real classy.
real glassy.
And real, oh, never mind.
I went there too. Never
Okay,
mind.
good.
And he sits down in a chair because he forgot about them. First of all, it looked like a comfortable chair, and second of all, like it still has to go through your pants, but it must have just cut them just right. I don't know, but I just don't feel like it'd be a bad enough injury to be laid up in the hospital for weeks.
well,
Go ahead.
ahead.
We're all about to Go ahead.
he calls his doctor and tells him to like up his pain medication to make him out, so that way he has more time to get on with Sabrina. Like he
Yeah.
manipulates his time. Like it's definitely not that big of an injury.
Wait, David?
No, Linus.
Oh, that's what. Okay, I was
Sorry,
confused. Okay.
yes.
Well, and if you notice, I noticed this last night because I had seen that part before. So this is the second viewing of this scene. But he kind of, there's just a brief moment where Linus's eyes, they're in the discussion before, just like glance over and notice the glasses in his pocket. And he says, "Sit down, David." So he knows what he's going to do. He made him sit on purpose. Did you catch that? He definitely, so Linus kind of made that happen. And I think for a character like David, who doesn't have to deal with a lot of responsibility, I feel like he'd be kind of a wimp with
Pain tolerance.
So something like that for us, we'd just be like, whatever, affected him highly. And then Linus milked it. It's like, knock him out. And then when you're on those heavy medication, when you do wake up, you're out of it, and then he can just dose him some more, which was really dark and dirty if we want to talk about that
That's
for a
so
second.
true.
So,
I
but
mean,
yes,
I
it was
just
not
think
that bad
about
of an injury.
how I
at
am
all.
with Benadryl. Like, I'm out for a solid 24 and then only halfway back for the next 24. So I avoid them at all costs. So I can't even imagine being on like some high pain killers and sleep medication. It'd be a rough go of it.
What was your favorite scene, Beth?
Oh, there's so many interesting scenes. I like the ends, like when he finally comes and finds her, and then they get to be in Paris together. That's always fun. But I really love the scene with Maud and Linus, and this is also where my favorite quote comes from, one of my favorite quotes. But he's like, they're just plotting away, trying to figure out how they're going to salvage this mess because David's been seen flirting with Sabrina by Rachel's parents. And so he's like, oh, take some medication, mother. And she's like, I'm still your mother. And he's like, I know. You taught me everything I know.
Yeah.
It's so great. There's just so much sass, and they're like planning. And
He was just a little too disrespectful, and she was having none of that.
I
She was
know.
like, I'm still your mother, Linus.
That's
And
right.
That was good.
I liked the part when she goes to visit David. Linus and Sabrina go visit David in the hospital, and he's all drugged up. It was so funny. And I loved it when she asked how David was. He's like, I'm fine, how are you? Or no, he asked her how she was. She's like, I'm fine. She says, how are you? He says, I'm fine. And then he looks at Linus, how are you? It's so funny to me.
He's just out of it a little bit.
So great.
Yeah.
That was funny.
Elizabeth, not Rachel, but Elizabeth's dad is also a very interesting character, also full of sass.
Her parents weirded me out.
Her mom is very, very interesting.
At that first little dinner.
The dinner.
Yes.
Yes, the awkward family dinner. Who doesn't love a good awkward family dinner scene?
I'm telling you, they did that one up right, because it was just a little, you were like,
And it's just like level by level, you're just like, oh, I can't handle this.
It was creepy.
yeah, yeah. And just throughout, her mom just being kind of, just not ditzy, but overly optimistic. I don't know if that's what you were
They
calling
kind
it.
of hint toward the fact that she was kind of white trash before she married
Yeah.
Elizabeth's dad.
It was a very interesting dynamic. I
Yes.
couldn't quite put it all together.
No.
But anyway. And I really liked Linus's secretary. They call her
Oh,
Mac.
yes.
That actress, I really like that actress.
She's
been in a bunch
great.
She was in The Addams Family, and then she was in Legally Blonde 2. I'm a fan. But she was really good, and any scene with her was good. But one of my favorite jokes that Sabrina, or one of my favorite parts was when Sabrina was telling Linus what other people called him, and it was like the only living world's only living heart donor.
Yeah.
And he asked Mac, his secretary, he's like, have you ever heard me described as the world's only living heart donor? And she just bust out laughing.
It was so
And then
great.
pulls it together. That was I appreciated it.
I love that he
really
calls her
good.
Mac too, because it's like she's one of the guys. He never really thinks of her as his secretary.
I love when he's trying to impress Sabrina and he tells Max to get the tickets to the theater. And she's like, well, you do realize the hardest to get tickets are going to be for a musical where the actors will spontaneously sing. And he's like,
And dance.
yeah, and dance. And he's like, oh, yeah.
That was good.
She was just like, I know you too well. Like, you're going to hate this.
He's like, I know I seldom go to the theater. She's like, seldom? He's like, okay, I'm not a theater buff. She goes, buff?
Just
She had
giving him a hard
She had a little
time.
sass in there.
I like
so.
her.
And then at the end when they're packing his bag, she's like, we were in your underwear doors, like touching the tower of I had it
I
before I
don't
started
know.
talking.
Durant?
Sheridan?
I don't know.
I don't
Anyway,
know.
some like meticulous, untouchable thing. Tower of
It was interesting.
Yes, there you go.
Yeah.
Words are hard, guys.
It was funny. She was a good character. I appreciated that character. So,
What about favorite quotes?
share yours. I have mine pulled up.
Okay, I'm gonna read it, even though I have the whole movie memorized, because television freaks me out, or video, whatever.
Television freaks you out.
Live on TV, folks.
In the beginning, when she's doing the voiceover, just kind of introducing the story and being the narrator, she said, "It never rained on the night of a Larrabee party. The Larrabees wouldn't have stood for it." And it just speaks to the character of every single Larrabee and how much they think of themselves and they're upper class and they completely own it. And you better do what they say.
They were also, that was my favorite quote, so I'm going to have to find my second favorite quote. But they were talking about, for the party Sabrina was invited to, he was like, yeah, tomorrow night, 9 o'clock. And we were like, who in the world is revving this party up at 9 o'clock? I would be so tired. And also, if you're going to feed me, you're going to have to start this thing earlier so I can get some food before 9.
They said 9 o'clock, we both looked at each other and went, oof.
Food you got
mean,
to have the food.
I'm good with food at any time of day, so.
Well, I'm going to have it, but I'm
It'd
going
be-
to have to
it's
provide
gonna
my own
be-
dinner
it's
and
gonna be
then go to the
second
party.
dinner, yeah.
It's going to be
That's
second dinner. It doesn't like keep me
hungry.
from buying a meal during the day.
Right.
That's a little disappointing. Anyway, share your quotes and then we'll come back to mine because I got to find it.
I love Paris is always a good idea because like you.
That was almost
Ashley,
my favorite. I was like, ooh.
I love a good 90s Paris. Have I ever been to Paris? No, but it's definitely on my bucket list. All the things. And I just feel like the 90s Paris that's shown in movies is quintessential.
Spectacular.
I liked the quote where Sabrina's talking to Linus and says, Linus is going on and on about his office and where he worked and stuff, and then she just says, "That's where you work, but where do you live?" And I was like, ooh, that's a good line. And I was like, at first I was like, well, he lives in his house. Oh, like living life. Oh, that's awesome.
I love how she just calls him out. She was like
Yeah.
this little
She was-
mouse before she
the
left,
whole
and she came back from
movie.
Paris, and she's got all this sass.
Yeah.
Well, and
The
it's
Paris sass.
you guess it's going to happen, but you have this whole dynamic between the two of them where Linus is trying to bring her away from David, and he's kind of developing all these feelings and pieces from you. And so in the beginning, it's kind of a slow start because you're back and forth between Paris, where she is, and New York. And every time we were in Paris, I was like, boo, go back to New York.
Every time I was like, excuse you.
Just because I like the
Rude.
fast pace. But it was a joke. It was a funny.
They definitely they could have made the backstory shorter than it was. They took a lot of time to develop the backstory.
But she develops as a person in Paris,
Yeah.
and he's developed as a person in New York. So not only do we have their parallels clashing, you see the backgrounds too, like the New York lifestyle, the fast pace here. And you've got the 90s Paris and how they, interacted. It was more than just them. It was also just where they were from too,
Yeah.
So my favorite quote, my little piece here, would be when after David is seen by Maud and his fiance's parents dancing with Sabrina, and they have that little interaction. Who's Sabrina? And Maud's like, she's like a sister to him, and he said, I don't dance with my sister that way.
Yeah.
And so Maud confronts David, and Linus is there, and Maud says, David, you're like my own son. I am your own son, Mother. And she says, exactly. Now, I endured 21 hours of hard labor to bring you into the world. The doctors begged me to take drugs, but I kept saying I wouldn't do anything to hurt my child. Well, I've changed my mind. You screw up with Elizabeth, and I swear I'll kill you. I love that. That was a good
Yeah,
part.
that was a good one.
The good mother threat.
Yes.
Ultimate.
By the way, they lost money on this movie.
Are you
saw that.
serious?
The budget was $58 million, cumulative worldwide gross of $53 million, 53.6.
I feel like at the time it came out, there was so much that came out mid-90s that it had a lot of competition. And it's
The
as much
90s
as I love
rom-coms
it,
were
yes,
strong.
as much as I love it, I can
so
see
true.
how it wouldn't be standing out compared to anything else that came out at that time.
I'm mourning the loss of this genre because this genre has really died, and it makes me so sad.
That's why they made so many so fast, because they knew they wouldn't be around. And they did it for you, Beth.
Oh, it's so sad, but true.
I love it.
So I was first introduced to this movie when the earlier version, which was Audrey Hepburn and Humphrey Bogart.
It's classic.
So that was my first introduction to Sabrina. Loved it. It was amazing. And then I really did enjoy the modern version, especially with the billionaire New York lifestyle, because that's very familiar with what I do. So it was fun to see all that. I'm like, oh, I understand all this. So that was fun.
I actually don't know which one I saw first. I don't remember watching either of them when I did, but I just love this one so much. But I love Audrey Hepburn so much, so it speaks volumes that I prefer this version, I think.
It really does. I'm honestly shocked that this was your, but at the same time not, because you're a Harrison Ford fan.
I love Harrison Ford.
So,
Oh, you go ahead.
well, I was just going to say, I was looking up some trivia on this one, and originally Sandra Bullock was going to be Sabrina.
Oh, really?
Yes, so that's interesting. But something else that got me, that I thought about in there, and I'm glad they addressed this in this trivia. So when they're having that awkward family dinner, and Mr. Tyson kind of is giving his toast, and it's a really long toast, and I don't know if you noticed, they keep going to drink, and then he keeps talking, and they keep going to drink. And he ends it by saying, "And may your first child be a masculine child." And I was like, that's from The Godfather. And then Mrs. Tyson leans over and tells Linus, she's like, that's from Serpico. But it's not. It's The Godfather. And they said it was. I thought I was wrong for a second. But
It speaks
I
to
was
her
right.
character a lot.
It does speak to her character.
Because even during dinner, she talks to one of the servants in 5 different languages. And I think she just does that to like act like she knows all these languages, and the servants are just used to her being dumb.
Yeah.
Because he's like, oh, you're such a
She's
linguist. She's like, yeah.
Putting on a show.
That's funny.
Putting on a show.
I couldn't get over how cringy it was and how much of a creep she was at the beginning of the movie. Like,
In the tree.
so bad. And then like, just, oh my gosh, over the top creep. And then she tells him about it. She's just like, he could have gone his whole life without knowing that. And
Well, that's
she's like,
what-
I've been watching
He was
you
like
in
into that.
in
He
that
was like,
tree.
okay.
And yeah, well, that's the thing though, is his reaction was also, I was like, what the heck? Nobody would react that way. I'm like, oh, that's great.
Ashley said, we watched it, she was like, every time Sabrina would say something to him about what she did in the beginning, she was like, red flag, red flag, red flag. I'm like, yeah, and Ashley brought up a good point as well. He's flattered by this. Like, it doesn't
So
creep him
weird.
out. He's not just okay with it.
It speaks
He
to how
loves
obsessed he is with himself. Like,
Yeah.
he loves that somebody would, anyway, it's interesting.
But at the same time, I mean, they're making billion-dollar deals, so they're used to always being watched. Like everything they say, everything they do, people are watching and talking about. So it probably is not that foreign of a concept to them to be spied on. But at the same time, it was like, why would you admit that you ever did that? We all do stuff when we're awkward teenagers, but like, you don't have to own up to all of them.
It speaks to her character development too, because when she interacts with David like a normal person, even though she's like still in awe of him, and then even with Linus, she just kind of gets more stable, I guess.
Well, she's always been obsessed with David and the idea of David, but like with Linus, he's just a person. So
I feel like too, like she talks about the friends that she left back home with her dad. I'm like, we don't see any friends back home other than the servants and her dad. So I
Must
think
have
it's
all been friends.
yeah.
Did you catch young Paul Giamatti in there? You know what I'm talking about? What was his job? I guess he
he's
was
a
a gardener.
gardener.
He's the actor. He was on Big Fat Liar with Frankie Muniz and the blue guy.
Yeah.
And he's been in a lot of other stuff
okay.
now. And he was Cora's brother on Downton Abbey. And it must have been one of his really early roles. And he was a little baby looking Paul Giamatti. It made me laugh. It was just fun.
Downtown Abbey.
Downtown Abbey.
So this movie reminded me, in different parts of it, reminded me of 3 other movies. The first one is, I couldn't help but notice how much in the beginning she looked like Princess Diaries. Did y'all think that?
I said that last night. I was like, she looked.
I was like, if she looked, and then and at that time, I didn't even know she was going to go through a makeover. I was just like, holy crap, she looks just like what is
Anne
her?
Hathaway.
Mia.
Oh, what's her?
Mia
Mia,
Mia
thank
from
you.
Papadis.
I was like, she looks just like Mia.
I mean, even the frizzy hair and
Yeah.
everything.
the glasses.
It was dead on. I was like,
Yeah.
holy cow. And then she had a makeover. And I was like, wow, that
Well,
reminds
there
me
you
so
go.
much of that. The second one is obviously The Great Gatsby, because Long Island parties in these mansions on the water. Super awesome. The third movie was While You Were Sleeping. Because while David is all drugged up, she and the brother
That's
are.
true.
I
This
was
is
like,
true.
this makes me think of that other movies.
Another
Yeah.
90s great
exactly, yeah.
rom-com.
So,
Oh, that
there
is
you
one
go.
of my faves up there.
There you go. That's funny.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's all it made me think of. No, one more. Just slightly, I thought of Jennifer. What's the name of that a movie that you like about the fashion company? Yeah, The Devil Wears
Devil
Prada.
Wears
Made me think of
Prada.
that a little bit. Like she's interning in France with just
She's
that.
interning for Vogue, so
Yeah.
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 So
Wow, look at you and all these
I
connections.
know.
I
All
thought
true.
them letting her work for Vogue was a nice transition to make it 90s savvy versus like in the Audrey Hepburn one where she was studying at a culinary school. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, they kept it with the time. It felt like it was in the 90s.
Oh, and the technology, I kept cringing because it was like state of the art stuff.
Harrison
Oh, man.
Ford's like,
In his car, that antenna.
yes.
When he's in the car, and he has that clunky laptop, and then he
Yes.
pulls up his car phone.
Yes.
Living
I
his
love-
best life.
Back
I
in
love
the day,
the
that was
flat
it.
screen, and he's like, "No one
Oh,
has a screen
That
this
was
size."
that was my other favorite scene. Was how much they tried to destroy in the background the TV.
With
And
all
they-
the Asian men, it was just
Yes!
him and all these Asian men from the other company, and they just were hitting it. So.
I
He
mean,
pulls out the gun and shoots at it.
why
He
don't
was
we-
like, it was just a question, I'm sorry.
Why don't we have TVs that way? I mean, they shot it, they hit it with a golf club. I feel like there was something else they did do it, but
They hit it with the fire stoker thing. They were
Yes,
like-
a fire poker. Yeah.
And
yeah.
they took that just the blue
Oh, the
flame,
flame,
to it.
yes. I mean,
Why aren't they making airplanes out of this stuff?
Same reason they don't make it out of the black box.
That's
really,
right.
Because they're
they
idiots.
They want to use it for entertainment and make more money.
Exactly.
That's exactly right.
they know where the priorities
Thanks,
are.
guys.
Yeah.
So, we can bring this up because we brought it up about the other movies. Anything you wish this movie did a little differently? I wish the relationship between her dad and that other servant was developed a little more.
I agree.
I think it was neat that they brought them together, and like you can piece it together in your mind that they've been working together for forever.
Because they hold hands. There's like
Right.
little subtle hints in the background.
But you
And
just
then
really,
he proposes at the end.
I know, you just have that one scene of them together by themselves, and then there's that. I was like, I would have liked a little more, because I do feel like at the beginning it's a little slow with backstory on her.
Yeah.
A lot of the Vogue stuff and a relationship that, in my opinion, was kind of unnecessary because she has a relationship with this guy, and then it's not even like a. I mean,
The only
it
important
just-
part of him is that he introduces her to photography, but it could have been very, very minimal. The
So,
whole backstory.
I was
as
like,
much as I enjoy it.
I would have appreciated a little more with the dad and the other servant whose name I don't remember.
And there's a fun moment between the two of them because she brings him tea in his apartment over the garage.
Yes.
And he said, you've been reading or watching Howard's End, I can't remember which, but that story is based on a housekeeper that is in love with the butler. And so he references that. So that was neat and speaks to how much he reads.
Yeah.
But yes, I wish their relationship had been developed more. She's also sassy.
Yeah. I did think about you when Sabrina was talking to her dad, and she said, I love so many things about you. One of my favorite things is that you became a chauffeur so you would have more time to read. And talks about, like, I think that's so neat. Like, that's what he did. Like, he wanted, like, you know, he has that downtime where he's just sitting in a long line of cars.
Yep.
You know, and he can just read all the time. It made me think of you because of how much you have to read.
I know, his apartment was like near and dear to my heart because there were just books everywhere. I was like, yes, this is the way all houses should be.
He just had the stack next to him. He's like, close one and pick up another one.
Exactly.
What would you change, Beth?
So I would have loved to have seen more interaction with Sabrina and Linus and David when they were little, because we hear the stories about it,
Yeah.
you know, later on, but it's really brief, and I think that would have just shown. Because Linus has always noticed Sabrina, and when she shows up with her crazy new makeover, I mean, she's made a huge transformation. Linus immediately is like, welcome back, Sabrina. And so he's always noticed her, whereas David, she's never been on David's radar. And so I think that would have been really fun to show some scenes of them growing up and seeing and observing each other. Because they all lived in the same area. I would have liked that.
That would have been good.
Yeah. I would have just changed his injury, David's injury. I wanted it to be more
That one
believable.
really bothers you.
I wanted it to be more believable. I don't even know what it would be, but something like epic. Like he did something stupid and skydiving without a parachute. I don't know.
Death.
Wow, that's next level.
Really came back from that. Wow.
Yeah.
Miraculous.
Yeah.
I also think it would have been more interesting to see the transformation of David, because like he goes from like never finishing everything. We hear like he's gone to law school and, you know, all this stuff that he's never finished. And all of a sudden at the end of the movie, he is ready to take on this huge multi-billion-dollar company. And so I think it would have been fun if they had left a few more hints along the way that showed like he was really capable. He was just never given the opportunity, which again was stated in dialogue, but I think that would have been a more powerful transition.
Well, they excuse it away by saying, he says something like, Mother, you've copied me, or you've CC'd me on the financial documents for the past 17 years. You just thought I couldn't read.
I loved that.
That was
I
funny.
was like,
I
look
appreciate
at
that
you being
line.
sassy, David.
I was like, just because you read those doesn't mean you're going to be able to run this company. He doesn't even know where his office is in the building.
Yeah.
Like,
How do you have an office that awesome and not go? I would at least hang out. Like, even if I didn't do anything, I would just hang out.
take women up there to impress
That's
them.
literally what I was about to say. I was like,
You have the Manhattan skyline. Like, yes.
I think that scene just went to reveal that he's not dumb. He just chooses to be, or he chooses to not work. Like
Yeah.
he could.
He's totally capable.
He's capable. Yeah. It's not that he was just dumb. So
even just to the point where he's like, oh, y'all work Sundays now. They're like, it's Wednesday, David.
Yeah.
He just has complete checked out entirely.
that was a good
Time
one.
means nothing to
Yeah,
him.
he just does what he does.
Stress me out.
Would you change anything?
I probably should change something, but I'm just
What's
got
your favorite? You can say no.
yeah. I do think they spend a lot of time with the backstory of her in Paris. And a lot of weird model scenes that just really speaks to the 90s Paris Vogue.
The water shooting out of the hands.
Yes.
Yeah, so there was a lot of that. That wasn't, I mean, the movie could have been shorter.
It was very French,
Yes,
the water scene.
but I
Very
do love
French.
it. It's so good.
I've never seen anything more French than that scene.
Or those big
Oh,
lips
man.
that the water's coming out
Yes.
of.
It makes me
yes.
think of like the whole time I watched the movie Moulin Rouge. Like, I'm just like, wow, this is so French.
It is French. I do love that movie.
It is so good.
Such a great movie.
It's amazing.
But yeah, I don't know that I'd actually change anything. It's so good.
All things.
Well, any other thoughts about this movie?
Any?
Feelings? It was your first time.
My first time.
How? Like, what was your? You went in blind. So, how do you feel about this movie?
I mean, for what it was okay. I definitely am not a huge rom-com fan. That's just not my niche of movies. But for what it was okay. I did think it was a bit long. It was 2 hours and 20 minutes. So it being a genre I'm not too crazy about, I was kind of like, oh my goodness, this is really long. We took a few breaks in between, like to
Aw.
get snacks or do things.
Snackage.
So
You soldiered through. I'm so proud.
yeah, pushed through. So
I think that might be one of the reasons why it struggled so much in general, is just its length. Because
Yeah.
movies used to be longer, but that was like, it was like unnecessary length.
right, and I think a lot of it was her and Linus's relationship took way too long to develop. Like it could have gone. If I cut anything, it would have been I would have sped that up more. So anyway,
Yeah. It
You had to
definitely-
melt that cold heart.
Yeah.
A
you did.
ruthless New Yorker businessman.
One still, like, at my core, I just think, I don't know. I don't know if he would have or should have just given up all his life for her. Only from, like...
Well, he's not doing any. He's basically just taking his money and having some fun. Like,
You don't know. He might be giving it all up. You don't know.
I don't think so.
Well, he thrives, though, in the business. And so as long as it was, that short amount of time is hard for me to get my head wrapped around, like, he's built his life here. And like, I looked it up. Harrison Ford was 22 years older than her. And the original,
Yeah.
Humphrey Bogart is 29 years older
Yep.
than Audrey Hepburn.
oh my
So,
gosh.
there definitely is an age, you know.
Yeah.
'Cause-
Wow.
And I kept wanting them to, when they were talking about how they danced together before, was that right?
Yeah.
How they danced together before? Because David was taking dance lessons
Yes.
or something. Anyway, I wanted to know how old he was and how old the characters are set to be different, because if he was around
Well,
her when she was 8 and he was in like his teens or even early
14,
20s, that would have been
15.
interesting.
Yeah.
So I just want to know what the age difference is supposed to be in between. I know we know what the actress is, but I want to know with him. So anyway, I digress. I just say with all that, like, you know, he had built his life, his career, and it's a lot to. He's not throwing it away, but it's implied that David takes over the company. That
Yeah.
was my
Yeah,
impersonation.
no,
So
he's doing
He's
that.
not giving up his money, but he's giving up his job as the CEO instead of just cutting back. I was like, you can cut back. You can split
Well,
your time.
he's
I don't
realized-
think
You're
long
rich.
term he cuts back. It's just for now.
I'm
It's
sure.
like
I'm
big
He's
sure.
just taking like a he's just furloughing himself a little bit.
There's a little gray area there.
Because, he did say, like, I've wanted for a long time and have just not been able to vocalize that I needed a change. And so
Well,
I
also
never got
he's-
to choose.
He's not really realized that he had David to give it to either. He felt like he was carrying everything.
Yeah. Because he didn't realize he was capable of remembering the day.
It was very powerful, though, when Sabrina was talking to Linus, and I can't remember exactly how they worded it, but Linus had said something earlier about how he had never asked David or something why he didn't do more, something like that. And Sabrina, like, they had more conversation, and she leaves by saying, I asked David one time why he didn't take a bigger role. And
Her dad asked David.
her dad, sorry. And he said something, David said something like, well, they have Linus, why do they need me? And it was like, you can expect a lot of him, but unless you give him real responsibility,
Yeah.
he's not necessarily going to step up. If you're going to do everything, it speaks to...
Like, why would he?
Yeah, it speaks to micromanaging,
Yeah.
not leading well, just, doing it all. So I liked that part as well. So there you go.
Okay, so since this is a romance, what was the most romantic scene of this movie for you?
I think, again, that my favorite scene where they're in the office, just because, like, I think they're both kind of fighting their feelings for each other, just because there is the age gap. They're like, traditionally, I'm not attracted to this type of person. There's a lot of risk by being in this relationship, and they physically are showing that too, because it's taking them forever to get to a point to where they kiss, and even the kiss is very hesitant.
Yeah. It's some really good tension. It's some really good tension. There's a lot of feels in the second half. Like, if you can get through the first half of, like, the backstory and, like, the cringiness of her just being obsessed with David and not realizing, like, the other opportunities around her, like, once you get past the cringe part, like, there's some really good tension that they build all the way through the second half.
Agreed.
And I even like the fact that she has the opportunity to be with David, and they don't even explore that, which is so great. Like, Linus, like, pushes her towards David. He pushes David towards Sabrina, and they both realize, like, this isn't something we want to pursue. And I thought that was very interesting.
Linus watches her reject him. Like, he watches to see what she'll do, and she doesn't go with him. She says, "Good night, David," and he sees that, which I think kind of gives him the courage to think about pursuing something.
Well,
with
that
her.
whole scene in the driveway outside the car, like, is big on realization for her because David says what he wants to, like, do next with her, and she knows it because it's the pattern he's done with every woman.
Yeah.
And she says and this and that. Well, what's next? She's realizing, I don't want to be another one of those women. I want to be like the end game. I want to get to the altar with you, to life forever with you. And for him, she's just the next on the list, and she realizes that. And I think for her, that's a big, like, light switch turned on. She realizes. So
No.
anyway,
If you had been Elizabeth, and then David tells you this whole saga, and I love it because this was such a good line, and he's like, "I need you to tell me how it's gonna, like, what's gonna happen next." What would your reaction have been to this?
I don't think I would have been that forgiving, because I know she has a lot of feelings for him, but I don't understand why she's so attracted to him, because she's very successful, and then other than him being a fun personality, I'm just like, So I don't know that I would have been so forgiving. But, I mean, she also loves him and cares for him, obviously, so she's like, if this is not the case, and I think she might have had some hesitation about, like, is he really going to commit to me, because he's a party boy, so he's verbalizing, like, this was me, I've suddenly had this life change, and I'm committed to you.
How much time was lapsed from Elizabeth and David's relationship to the point of when he proposed?
Not long.
I don't think it was a lot.
And she brought it up. It felt more to me like she just wanted somebody, didn't care who it was, just wanted to marry somebody. And he's got
She wanted that
money,
companionship.
why not? It's a title that she's marrying into. So.
Yeah. I think for both of them, her parents are getting involved because they don't feel like, he called her on the phone and talked to her, and they don't feel like his dad said, I don't feel like he was as eager to see her as he should have been, So she's definitely got these doubts in her mind. So I feel like for both of them, that moment that we don't get to see, that conversation for them is their, I'm going to marry you, I'm going to be with you, commitment moment for both of them. They both realize what's happened, they realize where they've come, and they realize they want each other. So even though we don't see that, and that's not the focal point of the movie, there's some romance there, I would say.
Yeah. I was really shocked that they decided to elope, because he's obviously a party boy, obviously very showy, and she definitely has elements of that too, because she wanted to marry him before he wanted to marry her. And so it was just one of those things of, like, you're both very successful from very wealthy families, like, this is a big status thing that you both want. And so I thought that was very interesting. They decided they were going to elope.
I think it's the first step, though, and him and possibly her as well. I mean, she's a doctor.
Yeah.
She's not living under a parent's shadow, but it's the first step of them kind of making their own way and breaking, like, one of his first decisions of, like I'm going to step into this role, but I'm going to do it my way because it's the only way I can step into this role,
Yeah.
As weird as it sounds, like, her, like, going back to her weird mother, definitely being
Ooh, that mother.
600 people on the guest list on just their side.
Sound familiar?
I was
You know
going to
what?
say, like,
It was just
you
on that
can't-
one side.
Uh-huh.
But that was me, and that was my wedding, right? That was her mom, their friends, their people. And so I think it just, again, speaks to they're going to decide and do their own thing. And it is what it is.
I
So-
love it. She was like, we thought we'd use recycled paper. And Maud's like, why does it always look brown?
I love Maud's lines. Maud's my favorite. Maud had a little personal trainer. Did you see that when she was
I've never
on the
noticed him
elliptical?
until this time.
She
He's a little like uptight. He had some earrings. He's like, she said, "Give me a moment." He's like, "Okay." And he
He
hops
looks like
out.
a little pool boy as her personal trainer, and I was like,
Getting
I
it,
didn't
Maud.
notice that.
Maud getting
That's
it.
funny.
It just develops her character that much more.
That's
I
great.
love, yeah, she's a great character.
Well, anything else before we rate it?
I'm not gonna say anything because I'll talk all night. I love this movie.
She loves this movie.
Thank y'all for watching it.
Yes,
You're welcome.
it was a good recommendation. I liked it.
I'm self-conscious about how much I love it because I recognize it. There's nothing about it that should make it my favorite. Like, there's a lot of better movies out there, but just personally, it just struck me the right way.
Well, that's what this podcast is all about too. We talk about
Yeah.
the ratings. You know, how this movie's going to hit us is going to be different based on who we are as people. So
Exactly.
That's good. All right, shall we get some numbers?
We
A
shall.
10 for Ashley. Beth?
Are you gonna skip yourself?
Yes. I gave it a 6.5 for me.
Okay, so I feel like rom-coms for me have their own separate category.
Here we go. Here we go.
So I have 2 ratings.
Glenn.
2
You
ratings.
got to tell me one though.
I will.
Okay.
I will. I'm just saying, I feel like rom-coms have their own special place in my heart, and I have a special rating for rom-coms. So on the rom-com scale, I feel like this is an 8. It is a solid romantic movie. As a movie in general, I would say a 6, because there are some like little story flaws, but it's a solid movie, and I like it.
So you're going to give it a 7.
A 6 is fine for this, but I'm just saying, like, there
She was
is
saying a 6.
Oh, okay.
yeah,
I wasn't sure.
a 6 for the crew review.
Okay.
But when you peel back, like, and you have to enter this world of acceptance for rom-coms, because
Sure.
like there's a level of ridiculousness, kind of like musicals. Like,
Sure.
I feel like those are separate categories, and so in this category it was an 8. I loved it.
Sounds good.
It was a 6 for me. And Jennifer's was a 5.
Oh,
These are all higher than I anticipated. So thank you so much.
She's good with that.
Man.
Which brings this crew review to a 6.7.
yes, solid.
My 10 really good.
Ashley's really excited about that.
Yes.
So that's good.
Good.
It's a great movie. It's a good feel-good movie, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah, definitely different, you know. And Ashley will say she's a sucker for an original story. Now this was a remake, but you know, and it's a rom-com, but
But
it
it's the
definitely
same
had
storyline. They just modernized it.
it has a different twist to it, which I appreciated. So just some different stuff you don't expect, you know.
Yeah.
And the dad, we didn't talk about this, but the dad having over $2 million.
Oh, I love
Yeah,
that.
that's such a
That's
good
so
twist. I didn't see that coming. I was like, what?
But it's so true because he lived
makes sense.
rent-free, and then he
And
invested.
Homeboy's smart. He reads all the time.
He
so
does. When I was thinking halfway through the movie, I was like, I wonder how much they pay them. I wonder if they don't pay them as much because they provide
Yeah.
like housing for them. I was like, I wonder how much he makes because he doesn't.
I mean, you would
have to worry
bank
about
most
housing.
of that.
I'm sure the food is from the kitchen. Like they
Yeah,
feed the
because every
staff.
scene you see him eating is the staff eating in the kitchen.
So you know, you really, he was right. They didn't have
Like
expenses.
utilities, maybe.
They had $15,000
Clothes.
in 2 years, invested that, and he has a uniform, so a lot of that was
Yeah.
provided.
yeah.
You know, I mean,
He's
got
living
it.
the sweet
He's
life.
got it made. He's got money in the bank. He's got time to read. He's got it. He just drives every now and then.
So if you're sitting there thinking, I want to do something with my life and make money, you should be a chauffeur because you can do it.
But all you can do is read because you're driving all the time. So you're at
That's
their
right.
beck and call.
Yeah.
Right. What were you going to say?
That was what I was going to say.
Oh, there you go.
There you go. So, Beth is the final person to go through this
Yes.
favorite movie series.
It's been a
And-
good series. It's been a
Yes.
fun series.
Beth, I'll let you tell them while we're watching.
You're such a jerk.
You had all this time. We've saved you for last.
I know. I still haven't picked one, so we've got a little mystery movie coming up. We'll announce it soon.
So just watch our social media and we'll tell you what to watch.
Pay attention. Pay close attention.
I like to keep people on their toes.
She does.
I also don't know what category I'm picking from because I have favorites in categories. So
There you
picking
go.
an ultimate favorite is, I have to do a bracket.
Oh my goodness.
Well, we're
I'd like to see that
highly
back.
anticipated.
Can I also get a copy of this bracket?
We're anticipating the announcement.
Yes.
So,
We would love to hear what your favorite movies are too. So send them our way.
And why?
Yeah.
Yes. The why is very important.
and who knows? We might just review your movie.
It could happen.
It could happen. You never know. So let us know. Mention in comments or whatever you need to do. Direct message us because we want to know. We want to review it. Make you feel good about yourself. Or bad. Who knows? Just kidding.
All right, Ashley, close us out.
Until next time, we go big tonight.
Hey!